everyone, it's Jackie at Spare Room Studio. I'm back to finish this page in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, illustrated by Charles Santor. So I started this with Albrecht Dürer watercolour pencils by Faber-Castell, and then I used a bit of Faber-Castell polychromos on the top of it. So that's how the book looks, if you're not familiar with the book. And I'm going to get stuck into it. Now, one of the things that I discovered about this book was that this is only my second page that I've coloured so far. In this first page, if you didn't see it, I started to colour this, the sky and so on, with water-based markers that I diluted with water, and it bled through really, really easily, and I wasn't happy about that because I want to be able to read this book with my granddaughter. So this page, I decided to try the Albrecht Durers and see whether they bleed through, and I'm happy to say that they have not bled through. There is the wrinkling and the cockling, but I'm okay with that. The crinkly paper is actually quite interesting to listen to, I feel. And it will flatten out a bit more when I close the book, just like that page there has. So I'm happy to say that the Albrecht Dürer watercolour pencils, used the way that I do anyway, did not bleed through, and I'm quite happy about that. So I'm going to do some more in the background, and I'm going to use some more pencil on here. Now, I started, pardon me, I started to colour this very much in a similar colour palette and way that Charles Santor had actually done his original painting of this image. And on reflection, I'm okay with it, I like it, but I actually wanted to start bringing some other colours into her face and skin that he had not brought in. So I added a little bit of blue in there. That's the light phthalo blue. And I thought, I want to experiment with that a little bit more. I like to add different colours into faces. So I'm actually going to put, I think I'm going to get some more greens. And I want to put some greens in there. I'm going to do it with the polychromos. And when I say green, I'm sort of thinking more along the lines of this light phthalo green. And that's interesting because I had the phthalo blue. So, yeah, there's something in that range of colours that must be appealing to me right now. But I just thought that I'd like to put little touches of that into her face. Just for some interest, because I just felt like it was a little bit too bland. So where I've got the phthalo blue, I'm also going to add a little bit of extra green. And I'm choosing areas where there is suggested grayscale, that there would be a little bit of shadow, but it's very close to where there might be some reflected yellow as well. So I want that colour to be there. Nobody would ever have green in their skin, of course, but I don't know, it just gives it that little bit of extra something to look at rather than all that same colour. And I'm also going to use it. I put a little bit of, I think it was May green that I put down here, but I just want to put a little touch of it into the shadowy areas down here as well, just to, give it a little bit of a point of interest that's a bit different. So same with that. Charles Santor's paintings are quite realistic to a point, and I don't necessarily want to do that. So that's why I've decided I'm going to add these little pops of colour into there. And the same with the dress. Although it's a yellow dress, I think we need to put something a little bit different in there just to perk it up a bit. So I was thinking that maybe, let's have a look, what is it called? Violet. What else could we put in there? A bit of violet, and maybe a little bit more of a brighter light cadmium red. Let's see how we go. The reason I'm picking these colours is if you think about the colour wheel, you know, purple and yellow are opposites, and so it just gives it that little bit of something. But these colours are on the opposite sides of the colour wheel, and so they actually, you know, make a little bit of an impact with each other. They play off of each other a little bit. So I'm just going to do that. And then what I'm going to do is go back to the Albrecht Durers, and I used light ochre for the darker areas. And the pencil shouldn't dilute, but what I'm going to do is just tone down that colour a little bit. And I've never really done this before, so this is a bit of an experiment with the combining the pencil and the watercolour pencil this way. So I just wanted to have a little play with it and see whether we could just make you know, things look a little bit more lively. It just felt a little bit, dare I say, dull. Because I do tend to, as a rule, pick very vibrant, bright colours. That is my usual sort of go-to colour scheme. I'm not really, you know, I'm not normally picking muted colours when it comes to colouring books. I like to be bold and vibrant with a colouring book. And I started thinking out that, you know, this book was a serious book and needed to be treated with a little bit of maybe reverence, I suppose. But now that I've started working in it, you know, I just want to do my own natural thing rather than just creating a copy of Charles Santor's work, as lovely as it is. But it's not mine, you know, it's not me. So while I will continue to look at his work for some ideas and some colour ideas maybe, and, you know, perhaps look at his original work if there's anything on here that doesn't quite make sense to me, because sometimes when work is adapted for a colouring book, some of the details and some of the things that the artist have done don't actually translate all that well to a line drawing or something in a colouring book. I'm just going to warm that up a bit too. So, yeah, I just thought, you know what, I enjoyed it, but not to the extent that maybe I normally would. So I went away. I was a bit low energy too in the first part because I was tired. I didn't sleep well last night. But I went off and had a coffee and a snack. You know, boosted the energy level up a little bit. And while I was sitting there thinking about it and looking at a few things on Instagram and what have you, I just thought, you know what, I just need to do my own thing. So maybe what I will do too is not just the polychromos, but I'll get the Albrecht Durers and look for, instead of the violet, maybe a bit of magenta. The issue that I'm having here is that I don't want to muddy it, but the issue is finding just the right colour that's going to work with this grayscale how I want it to. And that's not really doing it for me either, so let's have a look. I'm just going to keep trying until I'm happy. This one is Orange Glaze. Let's put a little bit of orange in there. I feel like that might be a little bit better. And then just go back to that light ochre. It's getting a little bit more like I would like to see it. And her skin is very, very yellow there, so I do need to tone that down a fraction. How am I going to do that? A little bit of raw umber maybe. So thank you if you did watch part 2, despite my low energy in that one. And you've come back to watch the end of this. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that a lot. Just tone that down a little bit as well. And I've got these 2 big boxes that come with the polychromos and the Albrecht Durer. So what did I use there? That was dark Naples ochre. Let's get the equivalent of that. In the polychromos, and that's going to be a bit hard to use at the moment while that paper's damp, but we'll come back and use that on there. And I want to put a bit of colour on the walls, but not a lot, because I want the focus to be on her. So I'm actually going to use the combination of blues plus what did I use originally? The light ultramarine, light phthalo blue, and the ultramarine. So I think I might stick to ultramarine and light ultramarine to start. And I'm going to wet the paper in these centre panels to start with. And I'm just going to do a really light wash of colour, because I just want to suggest some colour in here without it being too bold. And then I might just drop a bit of clean water in there. Let the pigment move around a bit, and then this is the light ultramarine. So let's put the darker one up here. I don't have the reference photo with me at the moment. My iPad went flat and is on charge, so I just feel like the light seems to be coming up at that sort of direction, so the walls will probably be a little bit darker at the top and lighter at the bottom, because I don't know how much shadow she's casting. There's a shadow there, but there's nothing on these walls that Charles has done to suggest that there's too much shadow here either. So I'm I'm just going to use some very, very light colour just so that it's not all grey. But I don't want you know, the viewer to look at the wall and think, oh, what a lovely shade of blue. It's just, you know, to stop it being too boring, but without drawing attention to it. Because I just feel like I'd like to really make Alice the centre of attention. And I'll use the darker blue here where Charles has indicated that there will be a shadow cast by Alice. And I'll just extend that out a little bit. So because we want to draw attention to Alice's face, that's why I'm darkening this area behind her just that little bit more. So that Alice comes into sharper focus. And I've just heard a sound outside that might be an Amazon delivery. I actually ordered a couple more books. I ordered the 2 new Any Day books from Morgan O'Brien, and I was so interested in Marty Noble's Alice in Wonderland book. The style just really was quite enjoyable, that I looked for some Marty Noble books on Amazon, and I've picked something that's quite a bit different to any other book in my collection so far. And of course, you know what Amazon does when you start looking at something, they suggest lots of other books that may be similar. And I've actually ordered a Teresa Goodridge book as well, which is, I don't think it's going to get here until Wednesday. I think it came from the States, so I don't think I own any other Teresa Goodridge books. I'm pretty certain I don't. I have quite a few Creative Haven books, but they're all different artists. I've got a few Marjorie Sarnett, but I don't think I've got Teresa Goodridge yet, so I'll share that with you when I get it, but it's a book that I don't see people colour into often. I'm hoping that's not going to go through too much. Yeah, it's a book that I don't see too often, so I felt a bit intrigued by it. And again, a different subject matter to most other books that I've got, so at the moment I feel like I love most of the books that I've got. I colour in and I enjoy, but I just felt like when I saw these 2 books from Marty Noble and Teresa Goodridge, I just felt like I might enjoy something just that little bit different. And they're both obviously single-sided books, so I'm going to be able to use a choice of mediums in them, which is always a bonus because there are definitely times where I like to use alcohol markers as a base. In fact, you know, there's quite a few times I just use alcohol markers with nothing else. And there are times where I want to use the water-based markers. I pretty much always want to do some sort of base these days and not do full colour pictures in coloured pencil. I just don't seem to be enjoying that the same anymore. That will change again, you know, everything goes in cycles, I feel. I'm just getting in as close as I can there to Alice's face. And you can see by putting that dark colour behind her, it's bringing her face into much more focus. So when you've got something brightly lit like that face is, you also need quite a strong shadow behind it so that it really pops and tells that story. And those rafters, I'm going to suggest that perhaps they're white. So that bit there, the shadow's not going to be quite as dark on there. Now again, just to bring her into focus, I'm going to do a slight shadow here. Actually not a shadow, but I'm going to darken the tone there so that it brings her forward with much more focus on her. She's not going to disappear into that background. And then here, I'm going to leave this boulder and let that be pale in the background. There's a lot of noise outside and I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's the council doing some tree trimming. I can't quite make out what the noise is, or it could be perhaps some roadworks. It's noisy anyway. So my husband is back from his fishing trip and very tired but very tanned, and they were sleeping in rough conditions for part of it. They were sleeping in swags on stretcher beds, and so not always the most comfortable conditions. And of course they were woken early when the sun came up and the birds all started and so on. They've been fishing and four-wheel driving and all that sort of stuff that they went to do. So yeah, he had a great time but came back rather tired last night. And my neighbour is off to work. She works as a nurse. And sounds like she might be heading off to do afternoon shift today. Not quite sure what is going on there, so I'm going to do blue, but just sort of blend it in, because I think I'm not sure if it's going to be possibly her dress there, but it's blue now. Yeah, so I'm feeling a lot better about this now. I've made it much more vibrant. And instead of leaving that like that, I'm actually going to add some, I think I'll add some cream just to cover some of that grey scale up. And I might also add a bit of ivory, which won't show up probably on camera, but I can see it. It is quite a sunny day, but where I'm sitting I have lighting on that is casting a very much a yellow warm light onto things, so you may not be able to see some of that until I hold it up for you. I'm just going to put a bit of white here where I feel like the highlight needs to be a little bit brighter. Where the light is catching on her shiny shoes. And I'm just going to use a touch of black just for the areas where we really need the most crisp, pop of black. So I hope that I haven't driven you all mad with my obsession with Alice this month. Put a little bit in there. A little bit of sky blue just in here for a bit of texture and a bit of patterning. That's that part of the wall. just do the same over here. I like to make things, hopefully try to make things a little bit more textured rather than finely, you know, everything finely blended. I want that bit of variety going on. And I'm choosing areas here where the paper is dry because this is quite damp and you can't use coloured pencil on damp paper, as I've mentioned before, or you just tear the paper up. And the colour hasn't actually come through there, so that's great. Okay, let's just have a look how she's looking through the... It's a little bit difficult to see what's going on here on the camera the way I've got it, so I will show you that a bit more closely when I'm done. But it does need a little bit more, feels like it needs a little bit more definition going on there. I'm just going to see if I can very carefully add in a bit of white. I can't find my, oh there it is. Is it? No. I can't find my white acrylic paint pen. What on earth have I done with that? That is so strange, I can't put my hand to it. I don't know where I've left it. I was just going to try and put a little bit of white into her face just to sharpen some of those details up. I'm going to put the tiniest bit of black just the tiniest bit. So I've sharpened my pencil to try and get a finer point, and I'm going to try not to press too hard and break that. You may not see much difference here because it is so small. I really would like to lighten that up. What if I use, instead of white, let's go for something very pale. This is called beige red. It's always difficult to get some details into such a small area. I think I'm going to have to live with that. A little bit of extra colour required up here, so I'm going to go for the cream. And then let's have a look. Let's go for the brown ochre and burnt ochre. Now Charles had left that quite light in that area on his original painting, but it's just not reading very well with what I've done here. And I think I might just darken behind there a little bit. So I'm looking for ultramarine. What did I choose there? Yeah, ultramarine if I can. There we go. Just use a little bit of that. Start lightly. Just to darken that behind her. But I don't want it to read as a shadow if possible. And I'm sorry, the neighbour has decided to start up a lawnmower or something right now, so I hope that's not too distracting. So the good thing about working with the Albrecht Dürer and the polychromos is that when you feel like the paper can't take any more water, but you want to build some colour up, the great thing is that you can easily match the pencils, because I believe that most of them have the same name. Down here I might just add a little bit of colour there as well. So this is sky blue. And I'm going in this sort of direction as what Charles's grayscale is going, just to mimic that. Not quite dry up there yet. So I'm just yeah, going in the same direction as his strokes. And of course we know that water, in this instance tears, are not actually going to have colour, but what they do is they pick up the colour that is around them. So this one is raw umber. I'm just going to put some colour on the edges there. And then add a little bit of the light yellow ochre in there as well. Under here I might add a bit of blue. And now I've got the light cobalt turquoise. I'm just going to add a little bit of extra in with that green that I put in there. Just moving around the place, putting a little bit of that in so that it, you know, keeps a bit of interest going for your eye. Possibly just a little bit in some other places as well. Paper's still quite damp up there. Okay, danger at fiddling again. So I'm going to put those aside. I'm going to finish there. I feel like that sort of matches in with the style of the drawing, even though it's not a replica of Charles Santor's colour exactly. I am happy with the way that that looks, I think. Actually, I might add a bit of that colour into her hair now that I've looked at it through the screen. So that was the light phthalo green. So I'm just going to put a little bit into her hair. So there you go, that's Alice's face closer up. I'm not going to try and get that blended look because I just don't think it's going to be achievable with the grayscale and the colours that I've chosen so far. I may put a little bit more colour into the fan. See that golden glow on her legs there suggests that there might be another light source coming in from the side somewhere that's nowhere near as vibrant and strong as the white highlight that is hitting the front of her there. So I'm going to leave that there. This was quite a lot smaller image. The book is quite large. If you're not familiar with the book, it is 26.5 centimetres tall by just under 28 centimetres wide, so it's almost a square. and then he's left quite a lot of white space on that page, which I think is great. It's really good for drawing in that close attention to her and giving you that uncomfortable feeling that she's contained into that space. So not only by the expression on her face, but by the lighting and the whole composition of how it's on the page, but it's, you know, it's been reduced down into that sort of detailed focus. It just gives you that sense of uncomfortableness, I think. Just those little artist tricks that they use to tell you a story but without being really obvious. And it's very much similar colours to what I've used on that page. So I'm quite happy with that actually. It doesn't have to be identical all the way through the book, but I feel like I've got a good feeling there with that one. Okay, so thank you for joining me again. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please let me know what you think. If you've got any thoughts or comments, questions, whatever, please leave them in the comments box for me. And I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to be back colouring next time. It's not likely to be, I was going to say it's not likely to be an Alice page, but I do have one work in progress that needs to be finished, and I might finish that on camera with you. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, and I will see you again in the next one. Take care, everyone. Happy colouring. Bye now.